right, you guys, we're back. I'm wearing Russian red lipstick because I read on the internet that I'm a spy. I'm now a Russian spy, so I'm really excited about that. My takeaway from visiting Russia is that it is our society that is on the decline, not theirs.
We need to talk about what's actually going on with Candace Owens and her recent trip to Russia, because the story she's trying to sell us, this idea that it was just a family vacation, is honestly insulting. I was just scrolling on X, and the level of backlash she's getting is insane. But for once, it feels completely justified. People are calling her out for being a mouthpiece for the Kremlin, and when you look at the details, it's hard to see it any other way. She's out here talking about clinical neurosis and mental unwellness from the people who call her out. But let's be real, the only thing that's unhinged is her behavior. She was gone for 1 week, and in that time, she managed to pop up at a major sanctioned economic forum, share a stage with some of the most dangerous ideologues in Russia, and then come back and act like we're the crazy ones for noticing. I mean, just listen to what she had to say about the place.
Russia, like I said, has not been communist in over 30 years. What about us? Welfarism, nonstop war, debt, people telling us that this is freedom. Right? This is great. This is you being free. You wouldn't want to live in Russia. That's the boogeyman syndrome, right? They're comparing it to something that you've never seen so that you don't, riot in the streets.
It's a level of gaslighting that would make a professional politician blush. But people are asking questions, and they're not liking the answers they're finding. And let's be real about the vacation part for a second. When most people go on vacation, they're trying to disconnect. They're looking for a break from the noise. But Candace? She's using her time off to network with the very people who are the center of the global power struggle.
My husband historically has fished in Russia. I think he used to do it once or twice a year. I think once a year. He had a whole fishing syndicate, and he told me how beautiful Russia was. We've been trying to make it work. Pregnancies, traveling, the whole gambit. And so when this opportunity, we were like, no, we're really going to make this work. Let's make it happen now. I was just so excited.
Honestly, I feel like it's a way to keep her name in the headlines while she's supposed to be away. And it just shows how much her identity is tied to her career. She can't even take a week off without trying to land the biggest interview in the world. I mean, she did admit she spent her vacation trying to land an interview with Vladimir Putin. She even joked that Tucker Carlson stole her shine by getting to him first. Just take a listen.
I've actually been trying to interview Vladimir Putin for like 5 years now. I actually put in a request when I was working at the Daily Wire, ironically, to pitch it to the CEOs. And it's like, maybe we can make this happen. We're trying to make it happen. And I think, to be honest with you, that Vladimir Putin doesn't know I exist. I'm working on it, okay? Tucker Carlson stole my shine.
So does that sound like a vacation to you? Or does it sound like a career-defined media play? She's basically admitting that she's been pitching an interview to the Kremlin for 5 years. 5 years! This isn't just a casual interest. It's an obsession. She wants that Tucker Carlson level of clout, and she's willing to go to some pretty dark places to get it. And then there's the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. She says she just ended up speaking on a panel about family values. But you don't just end up as a speaker at a forum that's heavily sanctioned by the US government. You're invited, you're vetted, and you're there because you're serving a purpose to the people running the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is my first time in Russia, and it's been absolutely beautiful, wonderful, defied all of my expectations. I would say, especially within the government institution, public schools, you saw the sort of messaging when I was growing up that you cannot have both.
For her to act like it was just a random occurrence is a total lie. Think about the message this sends to the rest of the world. It says that American influencers are for sale, that for the right price or the right amount of attention, they'll show up and play their part in the propaganda machine. But this is where it gets really creepy. Candace was on a panel with Alexander Dugin. Now, if you don't know who that is, you need to pay attention. Dugin's often called Putin's brain. He's the guy who provides the intellectual framework for Russia imperialism. He's not just a philosopher. He's a man who has openly called for the destruction of Western liberal democracy. And Candace Owens was right there next to him. She tries to brush it off, saying she hasn't even met him, but her presence on that stage is a massive win for Russian propaganda. I mean, it allows them to say to the world, look, even the most prominent American conservatives are on our side. It legitimizes their narrative and undermines everything the US is trying to do to hold Russia accountable. I was just scrolling through the comments on X, and some of you are really calling out the hypocrisy here. One user pointed out that while everyone's losing it over Candace going to Russia, we've got a sitting U.S. ambassador like Mike Huckabee meeting with Jonathan Pollard, a convicted traitor and spy who stole classified info and sent it to Israel multiple times without anyone saying a word. It's a wild double standard, right? But then you have people who see this whole Russia threat as a total fabrication. That same user said the Zionists are resorting to trying to scare people into believing Russia and China are trying to destroy America, and that it might have worked on the boomers, but it's not working on the rest of us. They're saying the Zios need a new playbook because we're not buying the fear-mongering anymore. And honestly, some people think Candace is actually on the right track. I saw a comment from another person who said, "She's right. Our society is in decline because Democrat communists have taken over the Congress and the judiciary. We can't vote our way out of this." That's a heavy sentiment, but it shows where a lot of people are at. They feel like the system is so broken that looking to places like Russia for family values or a different perspective doesn't seem so crazy anymore. But here's the thing. Even if you agree that society is in decline, does that mean we should be cozying up to a regime that actively wants to see us fail? Because let's be clear about what's happening here. When a prominent American voice like Candace Owens stands on that stage, she's being used to legitimize the Russian state's actions. They can point to her and tell their own people, "See, even the Americans know we're right." Whether she realizes it or not, she's serving a purpose for a government that is not our friend. It's a classic move from the Soviet-era playbook, and it's one that the current Russian regime has perfected. But let's talk about that Tucker stole my shine part for a second. It's actually pretty revealing because it shows that for Candace, this isn't about the truth or the war or the people of Russia. It's about her brand, her views, and her standing in the media world. And what about the family values she was supposedly there to talk about? It's a bit rich coming from a woman who spent the last year attacking other families, including Erica Kirk, for her own benefit. Now, the reality of this trip is far darker than a simple vacation. It's about the cultivation of an American voice to serve Russian interests. It's about the normalization of a regime that's actively working to undermine our country. And it's about an influencer who's so blinded by her own ambition that she can't see or doesn't care that she's being used. It's creepy, it's dishonest, and it's a betrayal of the trust her audience has placed in her. She's not telling you the truth. She's telling you what the Kremlin wants you to hear. And she's doing it with a smile on her face. So what are we looking at here? Is Candace Owens just a naive traveler who happened to end up on a panel with a Russian extremist? Or is she a calculated player who's actively working to build a media circuit in Russia? The patterns are there. The 5 years of pitching, the attendance at a sanctioned forum, the shared stage with Dugin. It all points to a much bigger story than a family vacation. She's moving into a new phase of her career, and it looks like that phase is going to be paved with Russian influence. But what do you guys think? Has Candace completely exposed herself here, or do you think people are reading way too much into it? Is this really just a journalist chasing a story, or is there something bigger going on that we're not seeing yet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because the more details that come out, the stranger this whole situation seems to get. And one thing I've learned is that whenever someone claims they're the only person telling you the truth, it's usually worth taking a closer look at who's giving them the microphone and why.